Hey guys, it's Churches, Graveyards and Graves here, and it's just started to rain, but I haven't got my dog here today because I wanted to do a quick whistle stop of some of the things to see around this amazing church. I'm in Northwich and this is the Church of St Helens. So without further ado, let's get on to the first thing. So I'm going to turn this around because right by this north porch is something really, well, it's inconspicuous really. Most people would just pass it by. So I'm going to show it you. And you just think it was a normal stone, wouldn't you? But if you look really closely, particularly if I go around this side, there's like a cross here and it's a blade, and actually this is the remnants of a Saxon grave. So and you can certainly tell by the markings that it's particularly old. Obviously you know, you've got a lot of moss now growing in the you know, in these sections, but it's still got a lot of the markings that you would expect on a Saxon grave. So this would be from around the 1st century AD, and I'm not quite sure why it's ended up at the north porch, but that's the first thing I wanted to show you at this church, so hope you enjoy that. So that's the Saxon grave. So there's a lot to talk about here at St Helens, so we'll carry on walking around. The next thing I want to show you is a lot of churches obviously sometimes, you know, when they got bored going to church, they do a bit of graffiti, and you can sometimes see it inside the church and sometimes you can see it outside the church as well. So I'm going to show you that because sometimes the graffiti on churches is really amazing. So there's some here, there's a few bits actually, some of it's more modern, some of it's less modern. So you've got a marking here. I'm not exactly sure whether that is graffiti, but it still seems a bit bizarre that they'd write it there. You see the date there? I think it's either 1801, 1891, and there's more graffiti around. If you keep looking, I'll show you some more in a bit. But you know, sometimes people were just hanging around and they would carve the names or their initials into the walls. I'll just give you a quick look round so you can see that you've also got these interesting stones here. I'm not exactly, I assume it's Latin, but you know, they obviously meant something. A lot of these churches was superstitious, particularly on the north porch, and used these stones as like protection from familiars and evil spirits. If you then go up the tower, which is some of the oldest bit, I don't know if I can zoom in a bit. There you go, and you can see this writing up here, again in Latin, and these dragons and carvings on the outer wall, as well as the clock up here. And if you go further up, you can start to see the gargoyles. You see that they're gargoyles because they're not grotesque, because they're actually being used as drainage. I would have thought that the clock was a lot more modern. So yeah, that brings that out. So I just wanted to show you that. And there's something else of real interest here. And if you look, I wonder if you can spot anything about that wall. Because you can see these holes here. And these are definitely not just part of the normal erosion. They're all at a relatively low level. If you go a bit higher, see that, you know, there is holes, but it's not the same type. These are really round, and these would have occurred through musket balls. So this is English Civil War, and when the royalists and the parliamentarians went to war, a lot of the time one of the soldiers or some of the army would end up taking sanctuary in churches, because churches were a real sanctuary, and therefore sometimes it meant that as they retreated back to the church for sanctuary, they would get shot at. But these are not bullet holes, these are definitely muskets. So yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? So if you come around here, I don't know if you can see them behind me, yay! So there's the musket balls of the English Civil War. So I know a lot of my followers are American, so obviously you had a war of independence, and you also had a civil war, the South versus North, and we also had a civil war, although somewhat earlier on. So and that was between the parliamentarians and the royalists, those who were loyal to the king at the time and those that were loyal to Parliament. And as we know, because everyone, well, a lot of people know English history, Charles got his head chopped off. Oh dear. Anyway, we're going to carry on around here. I'm going to show you a little bit more graffiti. So this is a good one. So this is definitely graffiti. So you've got W. Goodwin, 1888, and John Hughes, 1862. And JPH 1862, so they really went to town with that. You can see little markings on a lot of these stones as well. You see that down there, that W? But it always amazes me that they were to do this sort of thing. And if you carry on round to the porch, I've been trying to find out some information about these. This is not graffiti, and this is like I would have said these are some sort of Masonic marking. But they're quite distinct, aren't they? I wonder if you can spot like the bird here. It's amazing, isn't it? Well, I think so. And you know, if you then pull out, you can see these head corbels. I'm always stunned by some of these, and you can see that this part of the church is slightly later due to the carvings. And I'll go across here and show you. There's this one, and then as you come out, you get these on the ledge. Again, these are what we call grotesques. So you can see those grotesques up there, and they're like figurines and ugly faces and things like that. Look at that one, absolutely stunning. You can see it's a, you know, a grotesque. Often it was just the sculpture who put these on. Sometimes they were to depict something, some sort of superstition. But mostly they were just to do with the sculpture showing his wares. We'll come out again, and if you look up, you can see where there once would have been a statue, but obviously that's been removed. Yeah, and this fine oak door. So I'll just spin you around a little bit so you can see it actually is with a cemetery as well. There you go. And these stunning graves. There's a lot of tabletop graves here. These are tabletop graves. And this one is particularly interesting. I've not seen an angel like that before. But look at that face. Like a happy angel there. And it says here, care such fair flowers from the garden gone, who could have plucked them but the Lord alone. So that's what this writing says. And yeah, and that's without a doubt that was definitely the grave of a child. So I'm just going to turn it around and just let you see the beautiful Church of St Helens here. And even though it's a bit dull, and then towards this side. Yep. So this is St Helens in Northwich. The church is originated from the 14th century. Obviously, in later centuries, it has changed a bit. You can tell that by the windows. Some of the windows are different, and you can see the corbels and the way they've done the carving. So that's made a bit of a difference, and that's how you can kind of tell what age the church is. So. But I really wanted to show you this because a few churches, particularly around this area, have got mention to the Civil War, and I just also wanted to show you the graffiti. It's just those little things, isn't it, that make it personal. You know, that they're over 100 years old and people carve that on, and when we get bored in church, well, actually we probably just text on our phone nowadays. So when you're bored listening to the sermon, you just like text on your phone or go on Facebook. But you know, in them days they'd carve the name into the wall. So I hope you've enjoyed it. So from St Helens in Northwich, see you soon.